Hello and welcome to 3 Minute Gaming. I'm Nathan, and today I'm going to tell you if this game's worth your time and bandwidth.
Today's game is Puzzled, a Tetris-inspired puzzler on the Neo Geo. Does Puzzled do enough to compete with the big boys? Let's find out. Puzzled, known as Joy Joy Kid in Japan, is, it's a puzzle game. Probably guessed that from the title. That apes a lot from Tetris, while still technically doing its own thing. Your goal is simple. At the bottom of each stage is a balloon trapped by Tetris blocks. You need to clear enough of the blocks so the balloon has an escape pathway, as well as a clear path to the top of the screen to continue upwards and out. On the surface, the game follows very basic Tetris rules. It has the exact same block shapes from the iconic Soviet mind game, and making lines destroys them. However, there's one key mechanical difference here. After destroying a line, all placed blocks will fall downward if possible, rearranging the board and possibly making new lines. This single change completely alters how you approach the game versus Tetris. Individual line clears actually become much more important than multiples, and setting up combo chains becomes crucial. It's actually kind of a brain bender in how you have to change the way you think about Tetris for you to play Puzzled well. As you clear lines, you'll gain meter, which can be used to detonate your balloon and destroy blocks around it for potential or easier clears. The meter also thankfully persists between levels and continues, so you can use it as a get out of jail free card in some instances. The further along you go, the harder the levels get, and with more complexity, with things like gold blocks requiring multiple lines to fully destroy, or sand blocks that will only be destroyed if a block falls on it from above. The game has a ton of levels, but you ain't gonna be seeing them because this game is brutally hard, even on the easiest difficulty, as the speed up timer kicks in very quickly since the game really wants your quarters. And honestly, that's Puzzled, a Tetris adjacent experience with some neat new ideas. So what did I like about Puzzled? Well, the concept here is completely solid, with multiple levels requiring strategic thought to figure out how to free the balloon, and with enough familiar concepts that it's easy to pick up and go. Speaking of familiar concepts, I love a game that apes off another one, but requires me to think in a completely different way. Puzzled is not Tetris in how you win, and having to change my brain to figure out its nuances kept me engaged. And lastly, I liked how the two-player mode is just both players trying to solve puzzles, no verses or anything. While it does mean there's no interaction, it leads to good conversations with my partner about strategies on beating levels, as well as shared frustrations. Speaking of frustrations, when it comes to the bad, this game is hard in unfair and unfun ways. I mentioned how the speed up mechanic is way too brutal, but it's paired with pieces being too sticky when compared to Tetris, as well as the game loving to troll you by dropping the same piece 7 or 8 times in a row for no reason. On that note, the puzzles often don't feel well thought out. While I did enjoy trying to strategize on how to beat a lot of them, often the randomness of the blocks made the puzzle impossible, and some of the later ones felt like the game is just messing with you on how frustrating they are designed. And lastly, this game has some really obnoxious control problems. You can only rotate the block one direction. As I mentioned, T-spinning is out of the way because the pieces are super sticky, and even worse, at high speed, sometimes a piece literally will not rotate despite mashing the buttons. It just doesn't work. This game just really wants your quarters, and it's willing to cheat to make it happen. As you know, I rate games here on a 3-point scale. Must play, maybe consider, and don't bother. And Puzzled frustrated me. I really want to like it because I think the concept is awesome, but being built for an arcade that wants your money was apparently its downside. The controls are stiff, the difficulty is too high, and the level designs range from decent to unfair, worsened by the block RNG. It was certainly fun for a few levels, but it doesn't have the longevity one would hope for with this kind of game due to its high frustration. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. If you played Puzzled on the Neo Geo, courtesy of Arcade Archives, have you even heard of this game before? Please let me know what you think in the comments. Regardless, go out there, and maybe this is an archive game you can skip.